Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to be covering a sort of sequel to the 300-day moving average heat map for HEX that we did in a previous video, analogous to Bitcoin's 200-week moving average heat map. So remember to leave a thumbs up because it helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you're new and you enjoy this kind of content. And with that said, let's dive into this analysis. So with the 200-week moving average heat map for Bitcoin, what they pretty much do is they look at the chart of Bitcoin and you say, well, the 200-week moving average has been historical support many times. If we look at the depths of the bear market in 2012, 2015, 2018, 19, and even 2020, we've held it as support, right? It's been significant support. And so you can use this as a sort of bottoming region to which you can adjust this heat map, so to speak. Now, I explained it all in that previous video with the 300-day moving average heat map. So if you're interested in the technicalities, I'll leave a card right here so you can go ahead and check that video out. So let's skip the actual technicalities and look at these new moving average heat maps that were actually inspired by some of your guys' comments, because I did the 300-day moving average heat map for HEX, which pretty much takes the curvature of the 300-day moving average and maps each point according to a certain color given the slope. So right here where you see the slope is steeper than the rest of the curve, then that's where you got this hot region, okay? And the only concern and the only drawback of the 300-day moving average heat map, again, you guys mentioned it in the comments, is the fact that, well, for the first 300 days, you don't really have any data, right? It pretty much just makes all of this a draw, or a wash, I should say, and you just get this recent data, which, sure, it's insightful. It tells you, this area here was quite overheated, and we're not actually as overheated now as we were back then. So that's some insight, right? Now, what if instead of using the 300-day moving average, we use the 200-day moving average? Because it's been historical support region where if you bought at it or even just slightly beneath it, you pretty much captured local bottom regions, okay? You could even say once you cross beneath it, that's the time to buy, right? Both of these occasions. So it's not as long term as a moving average as a 300-day, obviously, but it still provides some similar insight. So we went ahead and did our 200-day moving average heat map for HEX, which, again, just the same as the previous one. It takes into account percent weekly changes of the curvature of this curve. So 300-day, just a reminder, 300-day heat map looks like this. The 200-day heat map looks something like this, right? So you can see we have data starting at day 200, and this provides a little more shorter term, right? It provides some shorter term insight compared to the 300-day moving average heat map as we saw over here. So it still illustrates the fact that this region over here was overheated, but then it also gives us an illustration of the fact that we were pretty overheated over here. And if you notice, it's kind of shorter term, these regions actually got a bit hotter. As you can see, these were just kind of lime green, and over here you start getting into the orange territory. So it's kind of interesting that with a shorter term moving average heat map, the 200-day, you can kind of see a little more resolution. But then again, you have this trade-off of increased resolution versus you're dealing on a shorter term time frame, so it might be less significant when you're looking at the big picture. But nonetheless, we went ahead and did the same for our 100-day moving average, and this one is even more short term. But again, similar thesis, same idea. The fact that it's been historical support beneath it as well, and we've pretty much held on it or beneath it as support regions. And if you extrapolate back here, you could probably see this going over here and being support here as well, or at least similar regions, right? So we did the same. This is our 300-day heat map. Here's your 200-day heat map, and here's our 100-day moving average heat map. Completely different story, and you can probably tell, right? It's because right here, this region here was the maximum percent weekly change of the 100-day moving average. The slope just incredibly turned very steep here, and then it's never been as steep as it was over here since. So this provides, again, it's less significant than a longer term moving average heat map in terms of, where are we actually really overheated in terms of like 300 days. This just shows us, in terms of 100 days or so, how overheated are we. I think it's actually kind of interesting looking at this because it tells you this whole region could have just been considered accumulation, and then this whole region you might consider accumulation. So again, just some different perspectives. 300-day, 200-day, and 100-day moving average heat maps. They all, for the most part, illustrate the fact that, or the first two illustrate the fact that these two regions were pretty overheated. This one was kind of overheated. When you look at the 100-day, you say, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, we might just be in accumulation still, and we might have a crazy move up that moves us up an order of magnitude. So with that said, if you enjoy this kind of content, this sort of calculated approach, no opinions, no biases, really just looking at the data, then leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in a future video. Peace.